Hey, y'all, welcome to Niver Neverland. I am a Niver. You know what? It's a little sad, honestly. This is our last taping here in St. Dinette. What a great set it's been here. You know, a lot of duality for me with what's going on currently, the closure of Dinette and Moochie's being recognized for James Beard for hospitality. It's a wild ride right now. And it was actually like a super fitting guest, Gavin Kaysen, Chef Gavin Kaysen, because, you know, he just exudes stability and confidence. And I needed a little today, you know, just because things are a little frenetic out there. So thanks for listening to Niver Neverland, our last episode tape here in St. Dinette. Guest Gavin Kaysen. And I just got to say, appreciate you. All right. Much love out there, and we'll talk soon. Nothing really will change now that we're rolling.
Usually doesn't. It just means that they're rolling.
Yeah, we're rolling, dude. We're rolling. Speaking of rolling, we were just talking about business.
Yeah.
We were talking about family, and how that combines with business. Seasonally, like things get nuts. Your kids, you know, you're a dad.
Yeah.
And I have a little guilt around this personally. I'm not sure that I did the wrong thing or the right thing, right? When you're a parent, you're kind of like doing your best to make every cool accommodation for your kid to get them supported. And I was always home with my kids in the morning and never home with them at night.
Yeah.
But, you know, my wife was, you know, but I feel a little guilt that I didn't always get to go to everything, you know, like I didn't.
True. But you ended up teaching them something that was so invaluable about hard work, right? Work ethic, dedication, drive, follow through, all of the things that maybe being at every single event all of the time, they fail to see, like, oh, why isn't dad here? Well, dad's he's got a service to work. That's really important because there's some people there that he needs to be in the restaurant for. It doesn't make them less important as your children. It just means that in order for you to be able to have those mornings free with them, you need to accommodate that service that you need to be at. So, yeah, I mean, look, I have 3 kids. I have a huge gap. I have a 2.5-year-old, then I have a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old. And so when I moved back home, my youngest, my 13-year-old was the same age as my now 2.5-year-old. And it's so funny because, you know, I think you go through these sort of stages where you're like, you want to be at everything all the time. I remember telling Linda, my wife, early on, I was like, look, once I hit 40 years old, so I opened Spoon when I was 35. I said, when I hit 40, around 40, like I just want to have the flexibility to leave the restaurant to go to the baseball game or the soccer game or the hockey game or the choir concert or whatever. It doesn't mean I'm going to go to every one. I just want to know that, like, if I look around the restaurant and I'm like, yeah, they're good. They don't need me. They don't need me for an hour and a half. I'm going to go see this. I can do it. Then I can go back afterwards. That's all I really wanted as a goal, which I did.
Yeah.
Which was good.
Yeah, real good.
You know.
So this tad bit of guilt, this me looking back is not like, I'm not consumed by it so much as I see it for families.
Yeah.
And everybody handles it very differently.
Yeah.
You know, I know ultimately that my kids are really proud of what I've done for my work. And you're right. It serves as a really good example of that hard work and ingenuity, all those things that we had to go through to be innovators, to be operators. It's funny, you know, you do what you love sometimes, and it's really a harder path or a difficult path. You know, you're looking at it and like, I'm still going to do this, dude. Like, I love this shit.
Yeah.
This shit is good. Like, it's, you know, it's invigorating. But it does, you know, I wondered about, like, do you get alone time? Do you?
Oh, yeah, for sure, man.
You do?
Yeah. I mean, I carve out.
It's purpose.
I carve it out.
Yeah, you got to carve.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, so Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I try to carve out from like 8:30, 8:45 in the morning until say 10:30 in the morning. That's like I'm at the gym, right? Or I'm going for a run, or that's my time.
Why do you have to be good at everything? Why do you have to like
carve it out, man?
Yeah, I mean,
there's times that I'm like, I can't do it, you know? I'm like,
well, I think it's a discipline though, right? Like this is a discipline and a standard for yourself.
Yeah.
And I have one. It's just different, right?
Yeah.
And how we achieve what we do in what way. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of everything. But I think how you're built is exactly, you can see what the result of how you're built is.
Well, and it's funny too. Like I see it in my kids, which is so funny.
It's already,
yeah, dude. It's so funny. Like my oldest, Emil, I mean, I see the way he is for like homework and how he structures himself for homework. Right. And it's how I would do it. Like I totally relate to it. And then Julius, my middle one. So the other day he's playing a game. He gets the puck right in the slot, takes a shot, hits the knob of the goalie's stick and gets deflected out, doesn't go in. We're driving home. They end up winning the game, but we're driving home. He's like, Dad, he's like, that's my shot. He's like, I practice that shot every day when I'm on the outdoor rink. He's like, I should make that shot. And I was like, listen, it's a game of inches. Like you just shot a little bit an inch to the left and it would have went in. He goes to bed. He wakes up the next morning, literally walks up to me. I give him a hug. I'm like, good morning, Juju. And he's like, from April till August, I'm shooting 25,000 pucks. I'm like, okay. Now what he'll do is he'll create a chart. Like he'll build a chart where he like then holds himself and it'll be by his bed, dude, from now until then. To just like make sure that he does it. And it's like, and I get it. Like I totally relate. Like that's carving out that time and being like, listen, I need 2 hours to or an hour and a half just to like be away from everything a little bit.
My daughter had theater. My son, well, he's kind of politically minded and does a lot of really deep, nerdy reading.
Yeah.
Like the classics and some really modern things. He reads about social structures and love, like very different. Mm-hmm. And his structure is he'll say hi and then he'll say bye. Mm-hmm. Like I'm gonna go hang out, dude. Like I need my space. My daughter, like the absolute opposite. The theater kid, the rambunctious one, the wild child. Like they're so different. They're 6 years apart too, so it's kind of like, they're only children in a way, like, because my daughter's out and my son has like 6 years with us at home.
Yeah, right.
But that's ending too, like phases. Oh, I'm looking forward to it. He really wants to be out on his own and do his own thing. Can't wait for him to realize what he misses. That's a good thing about being a dad, that draws your kid back to you. They don't see it all until you go away and you get the perspective of not being around the person who quietly did everything for you forever.
Yeah.
And then you grow that bond again because you can't really see it as a young person. It's kind of like they just, I deserve this. They're
totally.
They have gratitude and all that for sure. But they're young and they're building their minds. Boys are very interesting, and I think they're in a hard place. In time, they really need a lot of mentorship. They really need a lot of guidance or an outlet, people to talk to. It's just kind of a weird time. And so, family structure, you get alone time, you carve it out. Good for you. That's like so vital, because I was thinking about your schedule, dude, and I just can't even imagine, you're bouncing around.
Yeah.
You're social as hell, at work. I mean, that's a battery that, you probably need to work out to recharge that thing, dude.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, and and I mean, it's also like, and this, I mean, you have to have those disciplines when you're working the dining room or you're back in the kitchen and you're with the cooks or whatever it is. Like you have to have those disciplines of like, okay, I just need 10 minutes of like nothing and then I'm ready. And then I can go back out there and do it again. I honestly though, like having had worked for Danielle for so long and watching him do it, man, that's like the Mount Rushmore of chefs when it comes to just being able to work through them. Like, dude, I remember this. We would go on trips together around the world, and we'd go to Paris for like 24 hours, for a meeting and a dinner. And then we'd fly back the next day, and the driver would be bringing us back into the city, and he'd say, okay, Danielle, I'll drop you off first, and I'll drop Gavin off. And he'd say, yeah, drop me off in front of the restaurant. I was like, you're going into work? He's like, yeah, it's only 6:30. I'm like, how do you, like, I'm so tired. I just wanted to like go home and take a shower and like go to bed, you know? And here I am watching this guy who's just going in and going after it. I was like, man, this is unbelievable. So you watch it. And after, you know, at first, like anything, you're sort of memorized by the experience and you're in awe. Then you're kind of slightly disgusted by it because you're like, there's just no possible way he's human in order to do it.
How are you so good?
Right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you do that? Like, I just don't get it. And then you recognize that there are just certain disciplines that people like that have in their life that allow for them to have that freedom to do that. And ultimately doing that is what gives them the endorphins to do everything else, you know? And so when you think of it that way, when you frame it that way, like, I get that, you know? I mean, I could have a rough day, but man, when I get into that dining room and I get into that restaurant and we're cooking for hundreds of people and there's just kind of controlled chaos everywhere, that's my zen. Like, that's where I feel my most peaceful, you know, when you've got cooks doing what they're doing and servers
throughout your day. Really?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, man. Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's like my zen.
Because I do love that part.
Yeah.
Like when business is hard or there's something going on from like, you know, for me, I'm a little less structured. It could be 10, it could be noon, it could be whatever. But, you know, you get to the restaurant anytime before service, there's like, it's the other stuff.
Yeah.
It's the other stuff. You're keeping everybody else on track. It's not really, I suspect, as much about the food always. It's kind of like making sure the food is, but you have people you trust for that. You got to trust them to do that. Mm-hmm. But the machine that you have and the way that you have to focus in different spots too, like, holy shit. It's a juggle.
Yeah.
I think for me, like, I'm happy to kind of, you know, I'm still understanding how I work. Mm-hmm. At 5 o'clock though, it does get to go away. You get to put all of that daily bullshit and grind behind you, and you get to like go to work.
Yeah, exactly. Be a chef, be a restaurateur, be in the dining room, you know, like whatever it is, you get to then just be why you get to be what you want to be and why you fell in love with this.
Mm-hmm. It's really cool how we turn into like, I didn't want to necessarily be like my mom when I grew up, you know, like there's like, mom, God, she was like on my case all the time. I was the wild child, right? But I end up being like my mom, you know.
Totally. Yeah.
But also professionally, you know, we're an amalgamation of our experiences and the actual personalities of the people that we work with. For me, it's say Graziano Buzzi is a guy who's walking through the dining room, flirting, hugging, kissing, going and expediting for a while, and then going back up to the front door and doing his thing, and watching him kind of butterfly around the room and making sure he had complete control of everything. But like what I learned from him, I still use today.
Yeah.
It's just so cool. Like of like the person, not a technique necessarily, but a way of being, a way of acting, a way of presenting yourself with confidence. You fucking, like, you're as good as anybody in the front of the house. The front of the house, thanks. People are like, dude, like, go back to the kitchen and ever like get the fuck out of my garden or what?
No, it's funny. You know, it's like, it's funny because when I was in San Diego, I was 24 years old. Bizcocho. And it was the first kind of chef gig I got, right? And to be honest, like, I'm not sure I had any position being the chef de cuisine of that restaurant, but I certainly didn't give them any reason to not promote me to that position.
Right.
And we were a really small crew, right? We were like 6 or 7 of us. And what's crazy now is when I look back and see who those people were in that kitchen, all of whom I still stay in touch with, were absolute rock stars. And, you know, I remember the GM of the hotel, who was so good to me, would always say, just make sure you go out to the dining room, talk to the guests, you know? And I was like, okay. He's like, it's really important just to like get to know them. I'm like, all right, fine. You know, and I'm not shy but it is a different experience, you know? And I think that like, if you are a chef, if you're a cook, if you're a sous chef, and you look at somebody who's in the front of the house doing what they do and you think that's easy, try it. Because it's not easy. It's not easy to go to a table of 4 people you don't know, or a 2-top who's kind of like a little edgy and had a bad drive there and they're in a fight, or a 6-top who's like, there's one person who wants the power of that 6-top table, but not everybody agrees. Like, it's hard to walk into those dynamics and then control it. And so when I was very early on in my career at this age of 24, I learned that. And I really understood and found this incredible, I gained such respect for people that work the dining room, because I was like, holy shit, you can't just walk up to a table and think you own the table. Now, as a chef, it becomes a little bit different because you're wearing something different that sort of shows
it's a uniform.
I'm the command, I'm the chef of this restaurant, right?
And people understand that. People understand what that is.
For sure.
Look at it
but at age 24, I looked 15. And so people would look at me, dude, and they'd be like, you're the chef?
Excuse me.
And I was like, yeah, I'm the chef. And they're like, and I often would think it was like my Superman uniform. Like, I could wear street clothes during the day, but the second I put on that chef coat, my personality changed. I was ready to dominate and take control of that room. That room was my room. That kitchen was my kitchen. And it took me years to sort of work that muscle and not get scared about going up. You know, you get scared going up to tables when you don't know. And you're like, do I ask them if they liked it? What if they say no? And listen, you've done it. I've done it. You walk up to a table and you're like, how's everything? And they look at you and they say, yeah, it just wasn't good. What are you going to do? The first time is hard. The second time's hard. The third time's hard. You then like learn. You then realize like, okay, now how do I respond to this? What am I going to say? Because you can't control what's already been said. They've already had a miserable experience, but now you can control from now on. So how do you control the from now on, not from what was in the past? And it's a hard muscle to work out, but once you start to do it as a chef, you really start to gain a really true, full appreciation of the dining experience and everybody who's on your team.
It makes sense.
And I think that, to me, that was always the most important thing to try to figure out. When I worked for Danielle, that was my PhD in that. I really learned, and there were captains that I worked for, Wander and Tariq, and just like people that were just rock stars, Edward, like Moose, Arsam, like people that were just really so grounded in hospitality and so grounded in the spirit of what hospitality meant that I just would watch them. I'd watch them go to a table. I'd watch them talk to a table. I'd watch their mannerisms at the table. And I really gained such a different appreciation for what it meant to be tableside. And once you learn that, it's pretty fucking powerful.
It really is. Yeah, I think about like some of the I would tell you the dudes' names, like you said. Like, I got a Sneezy in there, and he had the clipboard dude. Clipboard, sure. Penciled in, rewritten reservation sheet, satay on 51st and 6th.
Yeah.
Anyway, back in the day, and it's like 500 covers.
Yeah.
And he's, crossing them off and like right here and over here.
Yeah.
He's got his hair flopping back, but he's like, how many of you are you? You know, like certain things that he said that are like, I bring with me. And then I worked at Smith & Wollensky for a little bit there. And I'll tell you what, if you don't have swagger at Smith & Wollensky, you're going to get bowled over, man. Like, forget you. Like, boy, give me my table.
It's crazy.
So I feel like, honestly, they're like that. Oh, and open in a casino where they did 20,000 covers in the first month.
It's insane.
I literally got beaten into being like knowing the repetitive amount of learning responses to certain situations. I love it when people come up to me and they say, table 21. I don't know what to do. What would you say? And I'm like, I'd probably be like, I hear what you're saying. Just to give them a really good response. It would be because I give good responses. But those are all practice. Those are things I bring with me, and each person brings you like an additional option, an additional innovation, you know, like, and I see you're saying that Danielle is, you know, ultimately your PhD. I see that. And then how do you get others to execute and or hold a standard and want to achieve something that's excellent, different, special?
You know, I think a lot of that comes from within the people you hire, and less the teaching of it. You know, take any great sports team, you know, what makes a sports team great? Is it the one superstar? Is it the head coach? It's likely neither. It's probably more than anything else the supporting cast around those people, because they understand how to make that star a star. They understand how to make those coaches' words, you know, come through and really permeate in everybody's head and make them think through it. I think it's really just who you surround yourself by and with. I've always believed that when you create this environment that you want, you know, excellence, and you want consistency, and you want hospitality, and you want all of these things, if you create that environment for people to flourish in and to fail in, but not to be in trouble for, but to learn from, everybody ends up kind of weeding themselves out when they don't see themselves there, you know? And I see it all the time. And I've always said that to people. I mean, I remember when at Cafe Blue, when interns would come and work for us, and they would say like, oh, what's it like in the kitchen? And, you know, is it this, is it that? I said, kitchen's the easiest part of your entire job. Once you leave the back door and you go in the streets of New York, I can't help you. But here, this is home for you. This is safe. Whatever you need, you got 64 cooks that'll do whatever you want, but you have to give them 100%. If you give them 90, they're going to give you 10 back, because there's 15 other kids that are ready to give 100%. So just do that, you know? And you realize, like, when you put that around everybody, if you don't want to give that, you kind of look around and you're like, man, maybe I don't belong here. This isn't my jam. And that's okay, you know?
I was interviewing somebody one time, and they kept giving me really good answers. And I'm like, are you as good as you're talking you are? You know, like, is this going to happen when you start on the floor here? Is it real, or are you just shitting me?
Yeah.
Because it feels good.
Yeah.
They didn't end up working here. You know, like, it's just like some answers are too good, but you really know when somebody walks in the door and actually punches in.
Yeah.
They can tell you a million things. I worked here, I worked there, I worked everywhere. But if they can't come in, assimilate, project confidence like that, perhaps a desire to accumulate knowledge, you know, like that visibly, like if you see it in somebody, like, you know, there's just certain keys to everybody clicks a different way. You've been in this long enough now that we can see your mentorship and leadership in the wild with other people that have that you've helped support. You continue to support them, be with them. And these are really cool examples of, you know, extending leadership, keeping them around, giving solid lessons, clear expectations, and then a standard to follow. Like, here's the directions. If you read the book and you follow the book, you just apply who you are on top of it. It really doesn't matter, you know, well, this stuff we can train or whatever, but if you're not like in, you're out. And it's really quick.
Yeah, and it's no, I think I think that's well articulated. And I think the main ingredient to all of it, besides that buy-in, is the hardest thing, which is patience. Right? Because and it's patience on both ends. It's not just the patience from the employee coming in, it's patience from us as well, developing that employee and those people. Because it's not always going to be perfect, right? And that's okay, but you have to sort of know that. Everybody's got to know that going into it. And it's awesome to see people who have come through our kitchens and through our dining rooms and go off and create what it is that make them happy now, and what it is that they told me when I sat down and interviewed with them, what they wanted to do. How many people do you interview, you know, that are cooks and say, one day I want to open my own restaurant? We all say that, right? A lot of people say that.
Tends to be the dream.
Right. It tends to be the dream. But then I was interviewing somebody yesterday, and I said, what's your dream? Do you want to open your own restaurant? It was a great answer. He said, I don't think so. Like I see what it takes. I see the costs associated with it. That doesn't inspire me. That doesn't excite me. That risk does not inherently make me want to be better. Right? Yeah. Like I'd rather see where I am and be great at where I am, being the chef for you. Great. Okay, now I know where you stand. So then I can think in my mind, like, how do I game plan that kind of that career path for this person as they grow? I'm not saying that they'll be with me forever, but if they go off and move on at some point in a couple of years, at least they're going off with the tools to then get them to that next level.
Plus, they work for your network in a way.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
Those connections, the opportunity to travel. This is a skill that travels. I love that.
Yep.
It can take you anywhere.
Yep.
A lot of the dudes we opened up the Bellagio with on the hotel side, the buffet side, like really great restaurants, but hotel owned. Mm-hmm. They're in Thailand, man, and they're running big hotels out there, and they're white clogging. It's really a beautiful life. That's a different angle.
Yeah.
But hey, it's one.
And you can do it.
But to see and understand that, and if you can find your way in that kind of more institutional end, we don't talk about that a whole ton, but it definitely is out there. That whole hoteling and how important that is. I see hotel culture, becoming a little bit more, like Vegas-y, like you have to have a name in every place, and that's okay. Like, but you should, like you should. Like I feel like you anchor Four Seasons so nicely. Like we talked about it a little bit. Like that's such a good thing for you in the city, in the hotel.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's big, dude. Your network. So like here you are, like bringing people along, and it's not even just day to day. You show me, I can help you out, bro. Like
exactly. I mean,
look at like even Mott's. Oh, you keep people too.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Them.
Yeah,
but you keep them, dude. Like your core staff has been there a long time.
Yeah.
It's fucking dope.
Yeah. No, it's amazing.
Important.
It is important.
So they see the path. You understanding their path helps you guide them along the way to help participate in fulfilling what you believe they should have to go on to the next step. Mm-hmm. I see that with Walker. I see that with Kenzie. I see that with Nicole here. As we close that chapter, I'm looking at them as very prepared for their next step. I know their literal worth in the market right now. Yeah. Who they, it's a lovely feeling. It is hard to kind of let them go all like this, and see them go out on their own, but it's really fucking exciting too, because they're going to go do something that's not me, and I'm going to see them out in the wild, and it's going to produce a new effect, a new ripple. We got our folks out there. I see Kim Tong doing really well at All Saints. We worked together at Town Talk back in the day, Nick Kosovich and Dan Oskey in the distillery world. And, like it feels really good to see these dudes out there, and it's a different angle, but the hospitality and the fun side and creating entertainment, we have our tree out there now, man. It's really fucking cool.
It's crazy.
It's really, really cool. You do it long enough.
Yeah. What does that mean?
Weird question, maybe. When you open your restaurants, how long do you think they'll be open?
Oh, I don't know. I guess to be honest with you, I never really think too deeply on it in that sense. I just know that unless I own the building, they're not going to always stay there forever. And even if I owned the building, frankly, it doesn't always mean that they'll stay there forever. But yeah, I would say I don't even think about it. I mean, I just kind of dream about where I want to take it, and whatever that time takes.
Yeah, I mean, to sell that, like at the beginning of an idea, like I wanted Dinette to be around for a really long time, like a really long time. I love it. The city at the time was really climbing and vibrant and but the idea that when you create a concept that it could live forever, or that you're thinking about it, I don't think I thought about it living or ending or like a certain amount of time. I think you think they're just going to go. It's just going to go. You're going to go. Because if you have like a shred of doubt that it's not, it's like, why are you doing it? You know, have a plan around that then. But who could have planned what happened over the last 10 years?
Right. I know.
Who could have planned that?
It's crazy.
And then, you know, it's like a real reorganization of the entire industry.
Yeah.
It's still being reorganized.
It is. Yeah. And it's a while. I think it's still, I think it still has a while to go. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, just the amount of institutional knowledge that was lost in the last 5 years, it's really making everybody, it should make everybody rethink kind of the way that you preserve what it is you have. And then how do you teach that to the next generation?
Fucking austerity.
Yeah, it's just like, what does that, what does that look like? You know, it's so wild to think that what it is that we know can just so quickly go away. And for everything, I mean, our industry is not rare to that. It just happens to be that ours is very outspoken. Ours is frequented all the time by guests, and there's opinions that are on them all the time. And so as a result, you're part of conversation.
You were in New York when the towers went down.
No, I was in Switzerland. I was living in Europe when the towers went down. Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, it was crazy.
Aquavit, and you know, like travel stopped and they locked the building down.
Yeah.
You know, and that really was, you know, one of those things that just kind of, you know, shook the industry. And it took a long time. Changed a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was on my break in between lunch and dinner service. And my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, called me and she was like, hey, some tower got hit by a plane in New York City. And I was like, it's weird. Didn't think anything of it. I went to work and my pastry chef, Cedric, came up to me and yelled at me in French that there's a war in America. But the word war and the word train station are very, very similar. So I was like, yeah, there's trains in America. Like, I didn't speak good enough French. I was like, yeah, of course, man. And he's like, no, come watch. And I'll never forget it, watching on this little tiny box TV. And it was just all black and white. And I'm listening to the French commentary and just watching the second plane hit. And I was like, well, I called my dad. I was like, what is going on? And he's like, it's chaos over here. And I talked to him for 10 minutes. And then that was it. And then I worked dinner service. I was making bread, doing cannelé de Bordeaux, quenelle sorbets and ice creams. I was working pastries, but had no concept of what it meant. And then I opened up the newspaper the next day in Switzerland, and obviously all the photos, and it was pretty wild. What was wild was to be so removed from it, from a country.
Yeah. Like that, you know.
So removed. I mean, I didn't have a TV, so like I wasn't watching the news. The internet didn't exist in the way that it does today. There's no social media. Like nothing is, you know, if you want to get anything, you're going on AOL. Like you're waiting for You Got Mail to come up. You know, like yeah. So booting. Yeah, it was crazy. It's wild.
Funny though. And then I think, you know, as I remember it, things kind of in the early 2000s, you know, that's when Food Network really blew up. That's when, you know, like the celebrity nature of chefs blew up. A lot of great restaurants and a lot of great restaurant history through the 2000s, and then 2008 happens. You know, strip club did well during that crash. I
was in New York for that.
You know, 3M was really bustling at the time, and you know, with as few seats as we had, Equalab was bustling at the time. So the city really had its corporate anchors, and they were out. Comcast, fuck those guys. Comcast, those guys are partiers, man.
Yeah,
they like it.
Yeah,
they like it.
I love it.
So you know, like we felt pretty insulated here at the time, but wow, that was a big shakeup for everybody. But nothing feels like, you know, what just went on. Financial factors aside, you know, the business remains as cool as it is and innovative as it is. All the hardship, all the weird stuff that, you know, like people are going through a business. It's like, it's still an industry that fills me up with things that I love. and there's humor to it, and there's beauty to it. And I like online creators. I feel like I'm gonna have to end up. I'm ending up kind of doing the same thing in a non-cooking format. But you see a lot of people out there making a living, just showing you their talents and making beautiful things. And I like that. Though, running a restaurant, keeping it all together, holding that standard like you do. I mean, this stuff's really, really, really hard work.
What do you think? What do you think if, like, you remember the show The Restaurant with Rocco DiSpirito? Dude,
I totally remember.
Right? So, like, imagine that happening now. Like the same style of access and the same. I mean, that show was. I just remember, I was living in San Diego at the time.
I'm not sure it helped him.
No, for sure it did not. For sure it
did not help him.
No,
to do that.
No, but just like it was the first thing that I can remember that, like, somebody opened up the door to a restaurant.
Yes.
The back door.
Yes.
And said, let me show you what this is all about.
Yes, I agree.
Right? To the general public. Now, to your point, online creation, things like this, they allow us to articulate with our voice what we want people to take away from what it is that we do in our profession in a different light. Right? And I would argue that show made every current content creator rethink how you license your name, image, and likeness out there. Right? But man, what a wild show that was.
So wild. But it's
crazy.
It's like real. And at that time, I did a dinner with Rocco and Marcus at Aquavit. Rocco came in and, kind of like Aquavit's synergy, whatever.
Yeah.
The same type of deal. And I was Rocco's handler.
Yeah.
Kind of, and it's like when I saw him on TV after that, I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. Really like him a lot, but that is a very vulnerable thing to show people with all of the nuances, the way of what employees talking to each other. It's dicey.
Yeah.
But it was really
crazy.
good to watch. I might want to go back and watch it.
I know.
Actually.
I was thinking
now
about
that you
it.
said that,
it's just like, I wonder what it would be like to see it now. After everything that we have experienced, that we've gone through, that we know, just as restaurateurs.
I don't think it's going to age well, Chef. I don't
know. We got to check it out.
That's why you got to watch it.
Right. That's why we got to see it. But I just remember being so like, oh my God, this is what I'm getting into. It also helped too, you talk about like the Food Network world. That helped open up so many opportunities for young people to be accepted to become a cook or a server or a bartender or whatever it was, that it once was not that way, we have the Synergy series coming back this year, and two of the guest chefs are Emeril and his son EJ. And, it's like, it's such a full circle moment, because when I was living in New York, Emeril was living a block away from Cafe Boulud when he was filming Emeril Live. He lived on 77th in Madison. I worked on 76 in Madison. And he'd go downtown and do shoot at the studio, and then he'd come up. I probably cooked dinner for Emeril 80 times, maybe more. I have no idea. But I remember the first time, right? Because it's Emeril.
Yeah.
And he's such a remarkably influential person for so many of us growing up. And so I certainly remember the first time. And then there was this moment which his son EJ reminded me of, but in EJ's office at his dad's restaurant and his restaurant, there's a photo in the office, and the photo is me handing EJ a spoon of food. And Emeril is in the background, and his wife, Emeril's wife, and EJ's mom, Alden, is taking the photo. And I don't even know what I was handing EJ. Something to taste, right?
Caviar.
Farro, risotto, right? I have no caviar, right? Yeah. Something. So then they go out and they have dinner, and EJ was probably 9 at the time, and they're walking back to the hotel, and he looks at his dad. He says, I want to be a chef after that dinner. And EJ remembers exactly what he ate at that meal. And he told me the story verbatim. And I remember when he ate there. I have the ticket, honestly. I would save, for the 8 years I was at Cafe Boulud, every ticket that would come in that was associated with the VIP chit, I would staple it to the calendar day, and then I'd fold it and put it back in this little red diary book. And I have 8 books, right, for 8 years. So the first time I cooked for Jacques Pepin or, Andre Saltner or Lon Sayak or TK or Michel Bras, you name them, Marcus. First time I ever cooked for any of these people, I have all their tickets, everything that they ate, everything they ordered, everything we sent them. It's so crazy to look back on it. And I think of that sort of that moment when Emerald and EJ came in. So I'm so grateful that they're coming to cook with us at Spoon, because it's a really incredible dynamic to watch the father and son relationship between the two of them.
Yeah.
Emerald is who he is, I think, to the world because of who they see on television. When you see the two of them together as a father and son, you can't help but as a father look at that and say, like, man, he really struck gold, and they worked for it. As a family, they worked for it. Like, they're a really beautiful family. But I mean, EJ's a smart kid. He's 21 years old. You can call him a kid. He's 22. Like, you can call him that. But he's really intelligent. He's very thoughtful. He's very driven by what he wants and what he wants to do. So it'll be cool to bring him into our restaurants.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I met Emerald twice. Once was at Aquavit, and he did a book signing there. And I have a very, very clear memory of this. Mm-hmm. That when he arrived and we were walking through the restaurant, I was greeting everybody and whatever. Anyway, but he kind of put his hand on my shoulder while we were walking, and he's like, "This is a beautiful room." He was like a father to me, like in a moment, right. Like, hey, you guys are doing good work here. I hear, like, really just so warm and kind and like thoughtful. Like, he was like with me when he was walking. He wasn't like off on his own. He was like with me. Yeah. And then the second was when I was working in Vegas, one of his chefs had left and opened something up in Summerlin. Mm-hmm. And I got invited to the opening, and Emerald was there. Mm-hmm. And the person I was with, we went over the table and said hi to him. And do you know Tony Angotti? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Crazy.
The Jeremiah Tower. Yeah. Man, I got to learn from that dude, man.
Amazing.
Having dinner with him at Aqua with Michael Mina cooking was a highlight. Yeah. I won't forget. It was really fucking good.
Aquavit in Minneapolis was so ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm. I'm so lucky to like have had all those kind of genres too. Marcus, the fucking drive on that guy.
Oh, dude, it's insane.
And
by the way, it hasn't stopped.
No, it's like it's always been. Like, you can see it.
Yeah.
You can see it on it. It's really, really ridiculous, the pace that he has. I think you kind of said it a little bit, It's kind of like being on the wave and you're just riding the wave. Yeah. You got to keep riding the wave.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's been on a really good long wave, and I know that a phase for him, and he separating from Aquavit and Hoken, mm-hmm. that was tough. Yeah. Like that was not, again, I think that's almost back in that Rocco Despirito thing. Like, where chefs had to kind of take control of who they are and their personality. And
that was an identity crisis.
It was.
Everybody looked at Marcus as Aquavit, and he was saying to everybody else, I'm not this. There's more to me than that, and I can't show it to you just yet. And once he was able to show everybody, everyone was just like, authentic.
So multifaceted too, like the way the fashion stuff that he does, like different like packaged foods, like dudes, like he does a little bit of everything.
So there was this when I was living in New York, he would invite every year. He would have a dinner on his terrace, in the rooftop terrace at his apartment in Harlem.
Was he wearing shoes?
No, mostly not. He likes to
Is that the place with the marble floor?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or whatever it is. Yeah. The kitchen.
So you go outside, you sit outside. Yeah, right? So you sit outside. So every year you go out there, and he would invite, 20 people. Okay. But this is the craziest thing to me. It was 20 people from 20 different walks of life. You had famous musicians. You had famous artists.
Yes.
You had famous chefs.
Yes.
You had famous conductors. You had famous CEOs. But like not famous in the I see you on TV and in the newspaper and magazines every day, but just like famous in their own right. Now the only rule to the dinner was that at some point during the dinner you had to ring a bell that was in front of you, and then you had to stand up and talk about how your failure created to where you are today. And what was your failure that got you here? I won't name who was there, but I will tell you the stories and the people that were there that talked about their failure, which is what helped them create their success. It was to this day the most incredible dining experience I've ever been a part of in my entire life.
Beautiful.
Ever.
Beautiful.
And it was just so Marcus.
Yeah.
To strip away everything that you thought you knew about everybody and to just say, no. This is us. Let's talk about it. And then you know what we did after dinner? We went on a Harlem pub crawl. It was awesome. It was so cool.
He drinks like half ciders and beers probably still.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think a lot of us were drinking, but
yeah.
You know, we were just kind of walking around hanging out.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Yeah, man. You know, again, this amalgamation, like those things that you take from people away, it was really beautiful. You know, and the Swedes don't really tell you you're doing a great job much.
No.
They ask you to go on trips. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's when you know that you're worthy of travel and that they're not ashamed for dragging you into some you know, like an international city or whatever. Yeah. And he took me to his hometown, you know, or Stockholm actually. He took me to Stockholm. But we sat in El Bulli and ate dinner, he, Håkan, and I. And that was, I gotta say, like, eating with him and the way that his brain works and clicks and the things that he could tell you then when he was a young chef at that time, man. He was like mid-20s.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
I mean, just this industry is full of fight and vigor, and I still see the romance, you know, like I'm glad everybody's got a lot of restaurants, but I can still see the romance in one little place. I can still like what Boucheron does, you know, like beautiful, and like the uniqueness of Diane's, and that the way that I believe Yi has been able to execute Vinay. Wow.
Yeah.
You know, like he would tell you he's not like the most say on the fine dining, you know, tip, but really his people, he surrounded himself with good people and they execute so good. It's really good.
It's awesome.
I think other than North Loop, that neighborhood, you know, over there is really just so exciting with Oro, and then you got a new Stargazer over there.
I'd say it's more exciting than North Loop right now.
It's really exciting. Good.
I think so.
Good. Yeah.
I mean, I was talking to some of my team last week about that. I said, you know, what's happening in the Northeast was what happened in the North Loop about 8 years ago. You know, roughly. I mean, when I opened Spoon, it was just Spoon and Bachelor Farmer. And then it started to pick up slowly from there. Yeah. You know, and then you started to see some, you know, Kato opened, you know, and he was doing food that was just so underappreciated, but so exceptional in so many ways. And then when they were able to open up Sanju-san, that kind of gave people a ticket to get and just check it out, which was a good entry point. But I would say that neighborhood in Northeast is really, it's more exciting right now, which is the way it should be. Like there needs to be a transfer of excitement in neighborhoods.
Yes.
I think we get fixated. I don't know if we is the right way to describe that. I think there is a fixation on what is great should always be great and it should never change. And in the reality, it should always change. It should be an evolution, because if North Loop was once sort of that epicenter and now Northeast is taking on a lot of that energy, it should inspire people in the North Loop to say, okay, how do we bring that back? Or what are we missing? Or are we misidentifying with who we want to become as a community or as this part of the city? Or what's the next part of the city that's looking and saying, hey, well, we can add this, and this, and all of a sudden we're going to start to blow up.
It's so you got your Brooklyn, and you got your parts of the city. You know, like the zones is really like how I see it so much more in Europe. Like with Spain, when I kind of learned how to party there. You know, you go to a zone and you go to 3 places in one little zone.
Yeah, and it's an organic
process. You get in a cab and you go to another zone and you hang out there, and then the late night zones over here. You know, but you're always kind of having a place to go. And I love it when those things kind of congeal and you see like, okay, now, like it was a neighborhood always, but now it feels like something that's like, wow, you know, this is a entertainment. Like we got some of our best right here in one spot. It's really cool.
Yeah. And that's what you want to see.
I've been to Minari a couple times, dude.
Yeah.
Like really cool show there.
Yeah.
You know,
awesome.
like nice.
Yeah. No, and that's
people are reaching.
And that's what creates a restaurant community. That's what creates a restaurant city and a restaurant town. You know,
to the culture part. To the building
because
of the restaurant.
Yeah.
Like,
and what it is like, there is not a competition in my perspective. From my perspective, there is not a competition between the Boucherons and the Dianes and the Minaris and Young Jonies and Spoon and Stable. And like, that's not a competition. The better that everybody does collectively in their own walls, that then helps the community come out to see them and visit them and maybe visit their neighbor because they're eating at St. Dinette and they're like, I haven't been over there. Let's go over there next week. That is what creates the restaurant community.
Yeah.
It's not a competition between each other, right? The only competition that we have are these other cities. How do we get people to move back to Minneapolis and St. Paul? How do we get them to work here? You know, how do we get them to stay here? You know, and I mean, you take Adam and Jeannie at Boucheron. I mean, both of them were moving back to Minneapolis from where they were, and they were choosing between LA and us. And I remember interviewing Adam, and he's like, well, I'm going to go out to LA and do some stages and I'll let you know. And I'm like, okay. And in my mind, I thought to myself,
well, all right, Adam.
Yeah, I'm like, we're going to lose him because he's going to go out to LA and he's going to see the produce. He's going to see the Santa Monica market. He's going to see all of these things that as a chef is our candy land, you know? And the only thing that I thought would keep somebody like that to come back was family, because that was really important to him as part of the interview and to he and Jeannie, and they wanted to start a family and all of these things. And then he ended up coming back, right? And then working for us at Spoon, and then obviously Demi and opening Demi and being there for years. And Jeannie took on the role at Belcourt for years as GM and so on and so forth. So watching what it is that they've created was something that they always set out to do, but they were so smart about being patient through the process, learning about the city, learning about what it meant, learning about what they really wanted to create, and something that was meaningful to them. And that's what it's about. Like, you know, I talk to people all the time. They're like, oh, you must be, you know, nervous or upset that these people are leaving you to go open up their own restaurant. I said, no, that's the whole point, right? That's what they're not
each other up, dude.
Right. They're not going to stay. You don't want them to all stay, right? You need them to, if they have that drive inside of them, you want to figure out a way to ignite it and let them go off and do it and lift each other up. And as a result, we become a better restaurant town.
Absolutely.
And you give no excuses to the national media to not write about us. And that is important. It is important to stand up on that mountaintop and scream as loud as you can, hey, we're not flyover. Pay attention.
Yeah, it is annoying.
And you have to do it. You have to have people do it. And the ones who stand up and stick their necks out and do it the most are typically the ones who are like, stop. But you know what? It means a lot. You have to do it. You have to do it. That's our competition.
Yeah. Interesting. Because, you know, like you can just see, you know, what you go 6 hours to the east to Chicago. And that is a culture around dining.
Yes.
You know, those people live to do that.
Yep.
One of my favorite moments ever in my entire life of dining was walking into the Purple Pig midday 3 on like a Wednesday. And there were hundreds.
Yeah.
It was packed.
Yeah.
Wine. They had the fucking smoked turkey leg and the terra masalata, you know, like all these things that I was just like, this is so fucking good. You know, Jane Fonda is over there at an outdoor table, kind of guffawing, you know, like, wow, what a city. Like it's palpable.
Yeah.
And we have a long way to go to get there. And like our guests are amazing. People love eating out. It's about finding, I think, some more differentiation and trying more things and having people really exert on their identity who they are. And I think that's what makes like the best restaurant, you know, it's all kind of a dream. Did your restaurants turn, are they exactly what you thought they'd be?
Spoon is, Demi is for sure. Both Spoon and Demi are. Mara is in the context of it being in a hotel and in the Four Seasons. Absolutely. And Belcourt is always a moving target for me. Because I want to bring back the restaurant part of Belcourt. I love the bakery part, but I want to bring back the restaurant part. The part that I loved so much as well, which we will. We'll bring it back. But yeah, they are what I expected them to be. I think what they have become is probably bigger than what I ever anticipated. When I opened Spoon, I very much recognize how much energy there was behind that opening. I purposely did not read much about it or pay much attention to any of the press that was happening, but I do remember it feeling, just for myself, I remember feeling sort of this weight of like, okay, this is actually kind of a bigger deal than I anticipated. And so I remember early on recognizing that I would fail to meet a lot of expectations prior to even opening the restaurant. And I had to sit with that for a bit to like understand what that meant for me. And the reason that I recognized the failure would happen is because nobody can be put that high up and not swing and miss. It's just impossible. And I remember emailing both TK and DB and being like, how do I do this? You know, like I've always been, up to this point, I had always been the guy behind the guy. So I could deflect a lot of that. And so I remember emailing them, and I still have the email, but it was both of them were just basically like, just be you, you know, cook your food, be who you are in that restaurant, deliver what you know what to deliver, and it'll end up working itself out, which was true.
I really like how mementos are important to you. Mm-hmm. You know, you have a scrapbook of important, bless you, of important things. Like you gave Dana Cohen back in the day, you know, a slip of paper from Food and Wine magazine. What you gave half to the chef. Or to the front of the house, right?
In Napa, Abby, he took the word wine, I took the word food off the front cover and kept it in our wallets. And I said, once you get on the cover, you give away this piece of paper. And then I'm in New York, and Dana Cowan gives me my little chef coat award to say that I'm the best new chef for 2007. And I'm literally on stage, and I like pull out my wallet and fumble through my wallet, and I pull out this piece of paper, and I was like, this is for you. She's like, what's this? And I said, this has been in my wallet for 7 years, and my goal has been achieved. You keep this now. And she opened it up, and it was the word food from whatever that cover was, 2000, of the best new chefs of 2000, which I can't remember who was on that cover. I think Michael Simon, and I think it was that class. Mm-hmm. But
is that there is a moment where you become legitimized, you know. I don't mean to make it sound like that, but things like that, when you get those noms and when people regard you in that way, it's a whole credential. It's a step. Then we don't really have doctorates, like you say, like I don't have you can go to Cornell and get, you know, really good hospitality, and you know, you can get a degree in this shit, but you know, there's no PhD necessarily for what I do. It's really nice to have some definition in your career, you know. The awards thing, I mean, but it keeps you busy. Yo, man, our little place, Moochie's, gets a nom, and you know what happens? I love it. I feel invigorated. Yeah. But also, the dude gets an extra shift back because
it's busier now.
Yeah. It's wonderful. Yeah. It's wonderful. And so, like, you know, however temporary or fleeting it is, these things that happen to places and restaurants, these acknowledgments help the places, and it just trickles right down to the folks doing all the work, man. Like,
yeah. I remember early on when Spoon I was in Sweden on vacation, and I got a call, we were taking a car back. We were at some, like, kids play zone with my wife and the two boys. And I get this text on my phone that was like, look at this link. 40 most important restaurants to open up in America in the last 50 years or something like that. And Spoon's one of them out of 40. The other 39 are just epic, iconic restaurants. And I was like, and I ended up doing an interview that night with Kara Levin. Like I'm like sitting on a patio in Stockholm. And my middle son, Julius, just like loves to see himself on film. So he's just like making faces in the back, in the back. And like Emil, my other son's like trying to be respectful. And like, he understands sort of the magnitude of this interview, and Juju could care less. But I remember when that came out, I was like, that's a pretty impactful statement.
Yeah.
And what was more impactful for me was that they were recognizing a city in the middle of the country to do this.
Yeah.
It wasn't a coastal restaurant.
Yeah.
And it felt like a big win for whoever had worked or was going to work then in Spoon and Stable, because you knew that was sort of part of this legacy and part of this resume now. So, I think the interesting thing about awards is that if you get into the process of chasing them, you get really lost. If you get in the process of understanding why you achieved them, you create a lot of meaning. And I think that, I've been really grateful and really lucky to be part of a lot of awards. And through all of them, the one thing that I continue to take away from it all is that you still get up the same day, the next day the same way. You still and I'll tell you when it started. When I won Rising Star at Cafe Boulud, I was 29 years old. I get nominated. There was no long list at that point. It was like you were on the list or you weren't on the list. You had to go on eater.com to figure it out. I go to work that day. Somebody comes up to me and says, Chef, check Eater. The Beard Awards came out. The Beard Noms came out. I was like, okay. I go upstairs to the office. I click it. I fall off my chair. I'm nominated. Now, who am I nominated with? Sean Brock, nominated for Rising Star. Nate Appleman, who was killing it in San Francisco at the time.
A47?
A16.
A16.
Matt Molino, who was Nancy Silverton's chef at the time, killing it at the time.
Crush.
Myself, and I'm missing one. And I looked at the list, was like, I'm definitely not going to win, but it's super cool to be on the list. Like, I'm going to go to the party, I'm going to work service for lunch. I'm going to go home, put on my tuxedo, and I'm going to go to the Beard Awards. Yep. I get home that night, and I walk into my apartment complex, and I open the elevator, and I hear the front door open behind me, so I just hold the elevator for whomever it is. I can't see it, but I can hear it, so I hold the elevator. Eric Repair walks in, the chef from Le Bernardin. He lives in the building. He lived on the 9th floor. I lived on the 31st floor. And I said, Chef, I've met you once before, but I just want to reintroduce myself. I'm Gavin Kaysen, the chef at Cafe Boulud. He says, no, I know who you are. And he says, you live on the 31st floor? He says, Danielle's paying you well. I said, Chef, I have an apartment. You have the floor. It's a big difference.
He's got the floor.
It's like you got the whole floor.
Oh my God.
And
that's crazy.
We get to the 9th floor, and he leaves the hotel, and he leaves the elevator, and he turns around and looks at me as the elevator doors are closed, and he says, I voted for you today. And the door's shut. I get out and I go into my apartment. I look at Linda, and I was like, even if I lose, I guarantee you Eric Repair and Danielle Boulud voted for me. So that's pretty cool. Right. And then I end up winning, which was amazing. But the next day, after partying all night, staying out until like 7, 8 in the morning, I went home and took an hour nap, and I went back to work because I needed an expo lunch service. And it was a really important process to do that, because I recognized that the award was yesterday. You did it great, but you still got to get that canapé ready to go for service today.
I say stuff like that too. Like, what you do today is really cool. Like, good job.
Yeah.
You got another day tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's like absolutely nonstop. It really, I like that. It's the drive. So you can take a moment though and feel appreciated. I know that my people
wins.
here are feeling appreciated. It's not about an award. It's not about whatever. It's about what we've done, and the legacy and the idea of this, and how it's kind of implanted in people's minds, and they're coming and showing appreciation, respect. It's really beautiful. Yeah. That's the biggest thing that I could have really wanted on the way out of a place that like has meant so much to me, is that it feels rewarding whether it closes or not. It's so rewarding. If you run it like you do and people stay, like nobody's left, man. You know, like I really feel like not that 10 years was enough, but I'm really thankful that I got the full 10.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have any commitments when we lock the door that day. Everything's taken care of, you know? And it's really a beautiful thing. But hey, I'm going to introduce the show. I'm Tim Niver. And this is Niverland. I've been with Gavin here for about an hour and some odd chatting, shooting the shit. Gavin Kaysen, Spoon and Stable. I don't know how you're going to splice this all together. Normally I do this at the beginning.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have some sponsors and I must.
Yeah, please.
Land O'Lakes, foodservice. You know, it's a lot of farmers. It's a lot of local people. It's a good company. I like their ethics. They have good products and they're nice enough to consider me and the industry at large by supporting the show. 36 Lynn Refuel Station, Lonnie over there, man, he's a retail guru. He's an activist too. It's really just amazing what he does other than have a little convenience store, but it's impactful in that neighborhood. Appreciate you, Lonnie. And then I love this one because I get to say it funny, Minnesota Ice, right?
That's how you should all say it.
Minnesota Ice.
That's how they should answer their phones.
Dude, we at the strip club, it was so funny. We just answer the phone, be like, meat and fish, you know, or a strip club or whatever, you know, the club, you know, like whatever. Because back in the time, we never had online reservations.
Yeah.
Thanks for eating there.
Yeah.
You ate brunch there.
Yeah.
At table 8 up in the corner.
Yeah. It was awesome. Because
So cool.
you had just announced that you guys were closing. And I had just moved here because you guys closed shortly thereafter. I was like, I got to get there now. I got to check this out.
It meant a lot to me.
I had read so much about it, known so much about it.
What a verve.
Yeah.
What a little joint. Oh
I was
God.
like, I know.
Talk about scary. Like,
Dude, it was so cool. I remember walking in, all the millwork, like
Yeah. Yeah. Old school.
such personality.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It gave it to me. I walked in the
Such
door. I didn't
personality.
really, you know, I had an idea that was named the strip club, and I
Yeah.
walked in, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. I still remember walking in that door and being from like, and it was like today, you know, it was beautiful outside. It was sunny.
Oh, the view of the city.
And yep. And it was like, you go from this like sunshine and blue sky and you walk in and it's sort of this like, it's a different world.
You can't see faces at the front door when you're in the back of the bar. Yeah.
You know, your eyes are squinting, but it was such a cool way to enter a restaurant.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
And you know what we do lives on.
Yeah.
Those memories like carry, dude. The things that people do when they're in the restaurant, the conversations, the celebrations, the business deals, even the things that are, you know, like the breakups, whatever happens, it's like so much contained in food and how we share it and when we share it and with whom. It's like, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
And I think that's one thing that as restaurateurs, we have a hard time understanding that, grasping the magnitude of importance of what we've created. And I don't want that to sound pompous or egotistical. What I want that to sound like is that what you just said is really important, is that we build these restaurants, and what we've been talking about for an hour is team, right? We've been talking about the people that are with us on the journey.
Yeah.
And what contributes to all of that are the guests who come into the restaurant and how they contribute to us.
Yep.
And the fact that, you know, we build it, they celebrate an anniversary, they celebrate a milestone, they have a breakup, they have whatever the core memory is of that space will always live in that space. And we become kind of the carrier of
part
that,
of it,
you know, and
you're part of the culture of the city. It's how we connect. Is because people just don't come in and kind of manufacture like a meal. Like they come in for a reason.
It's really cool.
Or they trust you.
Yeah.
Or they know something that they like.
Yeah.
Like one item.
Yeah.
I've been very lucky in a lot of ways. Like people get pissed off about having a burger that's good. Like the chefs don't want to cook it all the time. But it has been a pathway to feeding so many people that I would, you know, it's up to me. Once I get them in here, if I got one thing, burger or not, once I get them in here, it's up to me to show them who I am. Yeah. I don't care why they're fucking here. You know, it's up to me to show them who I am. And it's really cool that we've been able to kind of culinarily keep and hold our own this entire time. The city kind of changed around us. We evolved, I think, in the right ways, you know, given our bumps, but the city also evolved around us too. Really interesting where we've ended up. And I'm not sad to say that it's over, Gavin. I'm also like looking across from the table, looking across at you, just thinking that, you know, you've given a lot to the city, and it's even bigger than just food or those memories at the tables. It's a level of swagger that we can go with because you're around. It's you know, like there's safety in numbers, and you're like a big part. You help get people together when there's moments where we need to combine efforts. You have a bigger picture thinking, you know, than a lot of folks, you know, and it's really valuable to us. So I'm not trying to blow you up. I know you're good. This is not an award, but also like, thanks a lot, brother. Like it's a big deal, and we need you. We need you around. I think, you know. So thanks a lot for that.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to be around and do those things that are typically behind the scenes, you know, that people don't necessarily see or have to see. You know, it's not, like I said earlier, I mean, to me, the competition is those other cities. And you know, when we opened Spoon, Chris Nye, who you know is our executive chef there and who we've made a partner, we always said from day one that, like, you know, we're not going to train people differently because we're in Minnesota. We're not going to think differently about cuisine and or hospitality just because geographically we're not in New York or Chicago or whatever. There's a standard that we want to uphold, and everybody wants to uphold what that standard looks like, and you just have to keep going after it. Do we fail at times? Of course, we all do. That's the purpose, right? The purpose is to then learn from it and take more from it. And so, you know, I think that seeing the way that the city has not only evolved culinary-wise and hospitality-wise, but seeing the way that the guests have accepted what has changed is really, really exciting.
It's really cool.
And I think it's just the beginning.
Yeah, I do feel it. Yeah. Like there's energy around, you know, you separate yourself from a hard, like the tumultuous times, and I'm not saying you forget it, but you know, things resume. Yeah. And there's always a cycle. Things have to turn sometimes too. Yep. They just do. Yep. It makes way and bulldozes for other people to have their opportunities. You know, like I feel good about that here, you know, like we're leaving a place and a space that's going to have good juju around it, you know, because I want St. Paul to be good too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Know? Just a minute though. It's going to take just a minute.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks again for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a lot of respect for you. I like you, dude. Like, appreciate your friendship, and I know, like, I know if I needed something, I could just reach to you, and you'd help me out. I just know that about you, and it's really cool, you know. So I just appreciate it, and thanks a lot. Big picture too for what you do around here in the city, man.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. Yeah, man. You're the best.
Thank you. You're the best.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Good stuff.